Hey friends, here we are again for another Sunday of bad science. And what I'm going to talk about today is not what I originally planned to do, but I felt compelled to do it because I posted something on my blog yesterday that I also posted to Facebook, and it got people wound up as it usually does. You can guess what it was about because it reliably works to foster interaction in comment section, and it was about transgender issues. Oh boy, it's a weird position to be in because I am a cis male. I'm the human being on the easiest setting, cis white male in America. So it's in some ways it's not my place to talk about this stuff. But on the other hand, what happened is that I ran across somebody who was invoking the authority of biology to defend TERFish views, and I just can't let that stand. So I posted about it, and I'm going to talk about it now because it's one of those things that pushes all my buttons. Okay, to give you the quick summary, this won't be quick, but as quick as I can make it. What happened is that on Twitter, the Royal Society of Biology posted something totally innocuous and exactly what I like to see from scientific societies doing outreach to talk to the public. So they posted this little tweet. It says, "Today is I Am a Biologist Day. Some would say the best day in biology week. We'll be showcasing some amazing biologists and the work they do, so make sure to share your selfies by tagging us and using the hashtag so we can share it too." Isn't that nice? Yeah, that's science communication. That's what you got to do. They just jumped in with this really simple thing that any scientist can do. I'm proud of them. Okay, so anyway, this is the Royal Society of Biology. Unfortunately, what happened almost immediately was that we got this. This person, Trisha, who endorses stay home, save lives. Okay, that's good. She's not a totally unredeemable idiot, but she's endorsing good ideas about controlling the pandemic. She also says, "I stand with J.K.R. Rowling." That's not so good. So Rowling is something of a bigot against transgender people, just totally prejudiced in that direction. And that's become increasingly clear over the years. So right away, just the header of this is inflammatory. It's trying to position this tweet as something in support of a transphobic bigot. So she says, "I am a biologist who knows that sex is determined at conception, observed at or before birth, and is immutable. I also know that biology isn't bigotry and that women are adult human females." Okay, there's a few problems with that tweet. One is sex is not determined at conception. Sex is a complex process that occurs over a long period of time. In human beings, your sex is not finalized. Is that even fair to say? It's not even close to complete until well after adolescence. So we're talking 20 years to develop our sexual attributes and most importantly our sexual attitudes. So yeah, that's a problem right there. Then she says it's observed at or before birth. How are you going to define sex in a way that's observable before birth? Yeah, you can do an ultrasound and you can look for things like a penis, sure. But as I'll mention later, just the external morphology is not a good indicator of your sex. Furthermore, the turfy bigots who are going to show up later are all whining about things like X and Y chromosomes and about gametes, things that aren't defined before for an individual at birth. Yeah, sure, you can do amniocentesis and look at the sex chromosomes, but otherwise, this is not standard practice in observing sex in fetuses. And she says it's immutable, but we know it's mutable. We know that people change their sexual ideas, their sexual preferences. They can even change their physical sex with surgery and hormones. So it's not immutable. So there's a falsehood. The immutability is something that TERFs want to pretend is a fact, but it's not. She says that biology isn't bigotry. I have problems with this too, because sometimes biology is bigoted. All we gotta do is look at things like racial science and eugenics. For a long time, biology was endorsing very bigoted ideas, and I would say that this is a case where biology could come down on the side of bigotry as well. You know, there are still biologists who preach that black people are inferior. So yeah, biology can be bigoted. It shouldn't be. And as we'll see, this is a case where biology is actually taking the right position. And she also says that she uses a buzzword here, buzz phrase, adult human females. Yeah, I saw so much of this the last couple of days. Yeah, people bragging about being adult human females. But the point in contention, the thing we're asking is, what defines female? Can anyone become female? That's the issue. And so just spouting this nonsense doesn't help at all. Okay, so anyway, that was inflammatory. That was posted right away. But then the Royal Society of Biology followed up with her post and said, please take your transphobia out of our hashtag, please. Bye. Oh, I approve of this so much. Okay, like I said, the opening idea from the Royal Society of Biology was, public communication. Let's talk about science. Let's see what science you are doing. Tell us about the diversity of human experience. Now, biologists can be found in every walk of life, etc. Good stuff. Then we get a transphobe marching in with totally irrelevant points. And the person maintaining the social media account just comes back and says, stop, go away. This is appropriate. This is what you got to do when you're dealing with transphobes or other bigots. Just don't give them the air they need to spout their nonsense. So this is great, but as you can guess, this is also inflammatory. And now the TERFs are upset. If you just look at that tweet, look at there, 640 retweets, 504 quote tweets. Yeah, over 1,000 responses to this one tweet from Biological Society. Oh yeah, that's great outreach at least. So some people are reading it. I saw somewhere that they also got a bunch of new people, new followers in these recent days from this sort of thing. So yeah, okay. So let's take a look at some of those tweets, those follow-on tweets. They're not pretty. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to go through a few of these. No, I will not go through 1,000. Don't worry, we don't have much time. Okay, so here's a common strategy. The cat from Mars says, is the Royal Society of Biology now claiming that human biology is transphobic? Seriously? Note the sneaky, dishonest equivocation here. No, nothing that was said previously was about biology being transphobic. It was saying that Tricia was being transphobic, and I can't believe you would question that. That's exactly what Tricia was aiming for, was to post this inflammatory point that's irrelevant to everything in the thread, that just says, standing with J.K. Rowling and, oh yeah, all this other stuff about immutability of sexes and so forth. So no, the Royal Society of Biology was not claiming that human biology is transphobic. To even try and claim that is grossly dishonest, but that's what you can come to expect from TERFs. Okay, we get more of the same. Here's another one. Colin White, who says, "You are the Royal Society of Biology, for Christ's sake. What is transphobic about affirming the importance of biology? Every biologist who is a member of the society needs to come out against this idiocy." What in the tweet was diminishing the importance of biology? It was saying this is a group of biologists endorsing biology, promoting biology, discussing biology. Nothing in it was saying that biology was not important. Quite the opposite. So this is kind of gross. This is just lying through Mr. Colin White's teeth about this stuff. And then there's a kicker there. I wonder what Richard Dawkins thinks about this. Oh dear God, no. Please, Richard Dawkins, don't weigh in on this. Your reputation is in tatters already. We don't need you saying something stupid about this. Yeah. And Richard Dawkins is not an authority on this kind of thing anyway. So, yeah. You can like Richard Dawkins. I like him for some things, but no, this is the kind of flame bait that Richard Dawkins needs to learn not to take. Okay, so we get more of this. There is nothing transphobic in stating biological realities. Please state exactly what out of the above was hateful or fearful of trans people. My, how the Royal Society of Biology has fallen. The Royal Society of Biology is stating biological realities. The biological realities is that sex is not a binary. The biological reality is that the determination and differentiation of sex is a complex process with many intermediate states, with multiple possible endpoints, and to say that it is binary and immutable is what is hateful or fearful of trans people. Because there are people who are demonstrating that reality all the time. And then we've got these other people like these TERFs who want to pass laws to restrict their freedoms and their rights. So, yeah, trans rights people, when you're trying to deny the biology as you are here, you are opposing trans rights. Okay, let's see, we got more of this. Oh, yeah, okay. I had been looking forward to reading this hashtag till I saw this. This is one of the most unprofessional and factually incorrect responses I have read from a prestigious society. And he's not talking about Trisha's response. Think of that. Surely you know that there are only two sexes and biology is not bigotry. Oh. But the thing is, the TERFs are not stating biology. They are stating their personal cult-like ideology to the idea that there is a Victorian notion of the sexes where there are males and there are females and they never meet, they never cross, and they each have their own specific separate roles. That's what we're opposing, and that's not biology. That is bigotry. So, please, Chris S., go stuff yourself. Okay, what do we got next? Oh, adult human female. I have come to despise that phrase. It's so ambiguous and meaningless, and yet people are treating this as a profound philosophical statement, a real deepity, that, oh, I am an adult human female, or I am an adult human male. Yeah, okay. Adult is kind of blurry right there, and I would say that female and male are also blurrier than you think. And the only reason human is unambiguous is that all the related species which we could possibly have crossbred with are extinct. Yeah, bring back Neanderthal and suddenly that one becomes ambiguous too. Now there's a question for you. Were Neanderthals human beings? Different species, classified as a different species. They could clearly breed with us, so blurry. This is probably the big message I wish I could get across to everybody who talks about biology. is biology is not concrete, specific, cut and dried stuff. It's blurry everywhere. Okay, so what does Adult Human Female have to say? Do the trustees of the Royal Society of Biology back this tweet? Do they think biology is bigotry? Oh, again. Okay, I hope the RSB does back this tweet. They haven't retracted it. They've had a few days to do it, so you would think. And they're getting such a good, solid response from it. Anyway, this whole nonsense of thinking biology is bigotry. No, the Royal Society of Biology does not think biology is bigotry. Apparently, some of the people there do think that transphobia is bigotry, though. So she goes on and says, I'm so confused. Oh, yeah, right. Can we literally change sex? Yes, you can. It's a difficult process. It's painful. And it takes money and effort, and the people struggle to go through sex changes. But from what I hear, many of them are much happier with a sex that matches their identity. Okay, can XX become XY? No, we can't change that. Maybe someday, but we're talking really radical genetic modification there. So no, we cannot change somebody's chromosome complement to a different chromosome complement, and you probably wouldn't want to. But the thing is, XX is not a perfect marker for femaleness. There are women who are XY, and there are men who are XX. So this is an irrelevant point. But just keep this in your head for a bit. This is somebody who apparently thinks chromosomes are identity. And that'll come back to bite them, I think. Okay, what else we got? Oh, I don't know what they are teaching in biology degrees these days, but I am a biologist, and there's nothing transphobic about stating the fact that humans are sexually dimorphic and can't change sex. We aren't clownfish or seahorses. Okay, the last bit is correct. We are not clownfish or seahorses. The rest of it is false. Humans are slightly sexually dimorphic. They're less sexually dimorphic than some of our more closely related primate species. But at the same time, sexual dimorphism isn't a great measure of sex. Yeah, men tend to be on average slightly taller than women by a small amount. But it's a statistical difference. There are men who are shorter than other women. Men who are shorter than the average women. There are women who are taller than men, who are taller than the average man. We don't put them into a new sexual category because of that. So yeah, we're slightly sexually dimorphic. There are differences also in morphology of genitalia, for instance, but it's very blurry. I should just say the word blurry over and over again because they're not grasping that. And yeah, we can change sex, as I've already mentioned. So yeah, this is more TERFy garbage. Oh, here's an interesting one. This is Heather Hang. You may recall her from her affiliation with the alt-right, with her husband, Brett Weinstein, and all that kind of crap, and her resignation from Evergreen University over various racial accusations and so forth. Yeah, so her life is a mess. But she really was a professor of biology, so she's got some credentials there. We should listen to her. So what does she say? She says, hey, Royal Society of Biology, I am a biologist. I co-authored this paper in one of your journals. Note the reference to eggs in the title. Eggs refers to the gametes of females. Is the title transphobic? Are frogs transphobic? Is life transphobic? Please advise. Oh gosh. Yeah, so Heather Hang is stupid. That's all I can say about this. Because there's nothing transphobic about eggs. Yeah, really. Transgender people do not deny the existence of eggs and sperm. They do not deny the existence of sex. They do discuss sex. Many of them have sex. Many of them have children. This has got nothing to do with what we're discussing here. The fact that you notice that frogs have eggs does not make you transphobic, nor does it support TERF notions of sex. It's a really weird thing to say, a really ignorant thing to say too. So yeah, the paper she wrote is the evolution of maternal investment and egg sizes, or something like that. So yeah, and yeah, that's fine. I study spiders. I've got a collection of egg sacs across the street over that way. I have got my spiders sorted into male and female reproductive classes. Because if I want to make more eggs, I've got to do that. There's nothing transphobic about recognizing the reality of sexual reproduction in human beings or other animals. So this is not the gotcha that Dr. Haying thinks it is. Okay. The point is that reproductive classes and sexual identity do not necessarily align. And that's okay. Why are you so hung up on this, TERFs? Okay, that's just sad to see her saying this kind of nonsense. It's illogical. It doesn't address the issue at hand. But oh yeah, she thinks she did. She thinks she says something profound, and she didn't. Here's another one. Robin says, I might need to put a disclaimer on mine that states I studied biology before brains were infected with the progressive virus. And she's got a photo illustration of a couple of books there. The Shadow Men and the Progressive Virus by Dr. Anthony Napoleon. Yeah, go ahead, look up Anthony Napoleon. He's a conspiracy theorist. His books are all about mind control and how there's a conspiracy to shape the minds of the culture with memes and well, who knows what else, hypnosis, I don't know, drugs, contrails. There isn't a conspiracy theory he rejects. It's all in there. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, goodbye, Robin. You're an idiot too. Okay. This is somebody called Old Speaker. Don't know anything about him. By the way, all the extremists thinking that by liking RSB's tweet you are calling out bigotry. You are instead making yourselves look like a big group of flat earthers to the rest of society. It doesn't help your cause, but highlights how damaging RSB's tweet is to the integrity of biology. Oh my, I'm glad we've got a guardian of our integrity, like Old Speaker 1 here. It makes you look like the 2020 version of the religious types who put Galileo on trial for suspicion of heresy and forced him to recant that the earth moves around the sun. Galileo muttered nonetheless, and yet it moves, and so it does. You know, it's one of the signs that you're dealing with a kook when they start comparing themselves to Galileo. No, this is not appropriate here. RSB's tweet was not damaging to the integrity of biology. The biology has come to a conclusion, and that is that sex is not a simple binary. And that's what the majority of scientists are saying. That's what you are rejecting. These people are more like the Inquisition, who are trying to silence anybody who points out biological realities. Those biological realities do not agree with their views. Oh, this is kind of a dismissive one. I sure hope this is just some social media intern. If it's an actual scientist who doesn't know that sex exists, well, there's not much hope for the Royal Society of Biology. A couple of big problems here is, okay, it's kind of dismissive of the person who's managing this account, who I presume is somebody they trusted to put in this position. So yeah, it's probably not just some social media intern. It's probably somebody who is consulting with biologists or is a biologist themselves and is reflecting the opinions of the Royal Society. Then this next dishonesty, if it's an actual scientist who doesn't know that sex exists. You, seriously, this is so freaking dishonest. And they do this over and over again. No, nobody is saying that sex doesn't exist. Except these guys are trying to make a case of, yeah, it's obvious that sex exists. It's also obvious that sex is darn complicated and it doesn't fit your cartoonish view of how the world works. So, yeah, just these people, they infuriate me. Okay, here goes another one. Failing to recognize sex as a material reality. What did I just say to the last nitwit? Nobody is denying that sex is a material reality. This is not the issue at hand here. And declaring the acknowledgement of sex as... No! Acknowledging the existence of sex is simply a fact. Yeah, that nobody is denying the existence of sex or that sex is a material reality. And then she goes and says, goes against several points in your code of conduct. Also, you know biology. No, it doesn't. Please review. Thanks. Here's what goes against their code of conduct. I will say that you are a... I'm not a member of the Royal Society of Biology. It's okay. Okay. Oh, now we're going to get into some of the causes of this problem. You know what the problem is. You know, the humanities have been utterly gutted by postmodernism. This is also not true. Postmodernism is a useful critical technique. It's actually a good thing. This cartoonish version of postmodernism in people's head is the problem. Can't we just leave biology and the other sciences alone? Who is we? This is a society of biologists that are saying something to you. And you, Esbrook, whoever you are coming out and saying that they are all wrong. You're the one who's trying to change the considered evidence and conclusions of biology. So, no, why don't you leave us alone? That's what I'll suggest. Seriously, you can write all the papers you want for those obscure studies journals. Science matters in the real world. Leave it alone. Yes, science matters in the real world, and that's why people are standing up for this position that sex is not a simple binary. So, yeah, okay. What do we got next? We probably got more of the same. Yeah, it's all the same. I think we're about done with this. So Carolyn is saying, did you see this? More Lysenkoism. An attack on rationality science from the RSB. Is it a backlash against the Enlightenment? I am concerned as where this is heading. So am I. Because these people, these TERFs, are not qualified to be making these comments. Either that or they're so grossly illogical, like hanging, that they've disqualified themselves for that reason. This is not Lysenkoism. This isn't some authority standing above and saying that you have to ignore the evidence of the science. This is a scientific society saying that the evidence of the science is that sex is not a binary. Yeah. Also, this business about rationality, science, the Enlightenment. So yeah, I come out of this community of atheists that for the past couple of decades have been wrapping themselves in the mantle of the Enlightenment, rationality, and science and all this stuff. And what happened is it turned out that they weren't so much interested in rationality and science and the Enlightenment as they were in endorsing certain regressive views about women. And many of them endorsing regressive views about race. So when I hear somebody similarly cloaking themselves in the Enlightenment, I'm kind of skeptical. I'm not so impressed with that anymore. Yeah, that's just not a good look anymore. I'll also point out that the Enlightenment was far more complicated than you think it was. We got Western slavery out of the Enlightenment. We got a whole bunch of bad ideas out of the Enlightenment. You know, that stuff about eugenics, people are saying that was Enlightenment as well. So yeah, don't tell me this stuff about the Enlightenment. Okay, so anyway, let me just summarize a couple of the problems I have with this. That what we've got is this problem of sex. That we've got a group of people, these TERFs, who want to reduce sex to just one of two things. You are a boy or a girl, male or female, man or woman. It's that concrete, split that cleanly. The problem is that it never has been split that cleanly. That, yeah, that there have been cultural practices that reinforce the distinctions and that have led to a great deal of unhappiness. But no, it's not as simple as they want us to think. So, for instance, for a long time, in my lifetime, I remember back in the 60s when there were cultural markers of sex that people attached a lot of importance to, like long hair versus short hair. Yeah, as somebody who grew up as a teenager and was kind of a hippie, yeah, I got told I was a girl or a woman quite a few times just because my hair was too long. Also, we had these conventions, boys like blue, girls like pink. Those are not good markers for sex, okay? But we used them that way for a long, long time. Then we progressed to another seemingly clear-cut sort of way of thinking of it, and that is, oh, your genitals, that's what counts. So boys are supposed to have a penis and girls are supposed to have a vagina, and that's how we make the distinctions. But we never bothered to consider that we have all this other cultural baggage that says we wear clothes all the time. We wear trousers, we wear dresses. Again, those superficial cultural markers. And you don't see people's genitals very often. Privacy issues, right? But here's people who want to argue that, yeah, we should define them by what's in their pants, and you don't know. Who knows what surprises might lurk in my trousers that you don't get to know about. Okay, so that's not a good one. And it's also the case that we have trans men now who have penises, and yet you want to deny them their masculinity. And trans women with vaginas, and you want to deny them their femininity. So yeah, you can't use that one anymore. Another one that was much more common is using secondary sexual characteristics. So yeah, women have breasts and wide hips. Of course, the problem with that is those are highly variable. You are not less a woman if you have narrow hips and small breasts. It doesn't make you a boy, right? Similarly, a boy could have wide hips and larger breasts, and no, doesn't matter. You're still a boy. So this is a bogus distinction, but it's one that it's easy to make on the fly just looking at somebody, and it's unfortunately really poor. One that I saw trotted out a lot this weekend was sexual dimorphism, with little consideration of what that means. So yeah, I already mentioned differences in height. So men on average are taller, women are shorter. There's differences in weight. But of course we don't put a scale outside of bathroom doors to determine who gets to go into the men's room or the women's room. So that also doesn't work. And there's a huge amount of overlap. There are women who are taller and larger than me, and there are men who are smaller than women. It just, the dimorphism doesn't matter. There are dual peaks, but there's this huge overlap between them, so you can't use that one. Furthermore, the other thing that would really matter is, are brains dimorphic? And really, I did this as an undergraduate. We did work on mice and looking at dimorphism in the brain. And seriously, if you chop out a female mouse brain and a male mouse brain and you put them on a microscope, if you dice them up into thin slices, you can't tell them apart. There are certain areas that seem to have some subtle differences in the sizes of the cells, but we don't know whether that's causal We don't know whether that's a consequence of environmental effects. So yeah, you can't use that one either. Another big one is chromosomes. Yeah, you got people who want to define sex by chromosomes. If you're XY, you're male. If you're XX, you're female. Again, there's differences in chromosomal constitution of different individuals, so that's a poor one to use. And, when somebody presents as a woman with breasts and a vagina, and who adopts cultural norms from women, dresses as a woman, behaves as we expect, stereotypically a woman to act, and then you look at her chromosomes and you say, well, you've got a Y chromosome. Why should that count? That's kind of a minor issue. It just doesn't matter. Another one that's in the news nowadays is endocrinology, hormones. Yeah, males are loaded with testosterone, females are loaded with estrogen, and that makes them significantly different. And again, I would not be one to deny the physiological effects of these hormones. You will also find that transgender people do not deny the physiological effects. They will take testosterone blockers, or they will take testosterone, and they will tell you, yeah, this has a big difference. It's changing their shape, it's changing the timbre of their voice, it may be having subtle effects on their behavior. There's all kinds of things that go on there. So, yeah, we can change those artificially. So should we just say, well, if you're taking testosterone, if your testosterone levels are above such and such, you're male, and if they're below such and such, you're female? Yeah, that doesn't work so well either. Speaking as an older man, who's definitely a cis male, my testosterone levels, I haven't measured them, but I expect from what the biological literature tells me that they've been declining over the years. This is to be expected. And yet somehow it hasn't changed my sex, hasn't changed my attitudes towards sex, hasn't affected me at all. That we have a wide range of tolerance for different levels of testosterone. So yeah, at the levels we're talking about in healthy people, no, it just doesn't make that big a difference in our behavior. I'm sure if I took a testosterone blocker, it would make a difference. But that's not what we're concerned about here. And then finally, the big one. Nowadays, what they're all talking about is gametes. There are only two kinds of gametes. There are ova and there are sperm, and these align with two reproductive classes. Therefore, sex is a binary. And I will say, yes, reproductive sex is a binary. It's the way we're built. So that's fine. Again, you won't find people denying that. But we're also saying that sex as a biological phenomenon is much more than simply what kind of gametes you produce. It's much more complicated than that. Blurry again. So the fact is that there are women who have testes and produce sperm, and you just want to deny that. I know, but they identify as women. They've got all the other attributes of a woman. Yet you want to find one thing to distinguish them on, and that's their gametes. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's been enough. Let me just end though on a good tweet. So this is from Jen McCrate. She's an old friend of mine. I know her. She's been working for 23andMe, so she's there in the thick of genetics research. And she says, I am a biologist. She definitely is. And like the majority of scientists, I understand that both sex and gender are non-binary, and that claim is supported by neuroimaging and genetic studies. TERFs are a transphobic hate group that make the world worse for both cis and trans women. And for cis and trans men, I would say as well. Oh, that was interesting. We just had a power outage, so things are fluctuating a little bit around here right now. That may account for some of the strange noise and the flickers in my lighting. I don't care. We're going to go on. I'm going to get this done. Anyway, so that's the bottom line. Is I'll just leave you with this take-home message that sex is a blurry phenomenon. There are people who are in between on various characteristics. There are people who change their characteristics to match a certain ideal. The brain is a complicated organ, that you can have a mind that does not align with the sex of your genitals and vice versa. And that's the reality of biology that groups like the Royal Society of Biology are acknowledging. And it's also what you can find papers in Nature and Science that acknowledge. Most of the major societies, scientific societies, have statements along these lines that they favor diversity and they're not going to tolerate any kind of transphobia or other discrimination in their ranks. You better get used to it, people. This is the reality, and all the people who are denying this are the ones denying the reality of biology, not the biologists who are professionals at this and understand the evidence. Okay, that's enough. I'm getting annoyed enough, so let's move on. I'm going to leave you here with my usual list of the wonderful patrons who support me on Patreon, and I encourage you to join that group if you want to support me in my work. I'll include a link down below so you can do that. And also, just because it's fall, I'm in the Midwest. I just took a few shots of a local cornfield. Yeah, this is classical Midwestern imagery. Everywhere around here, I am surrounded by cornfields. Also soybean fields. Maybe next week I'll do a soybean field for you. Anyway, they're all out there. So I just went out to a local farm and zoomed the drone over the farm. Interestingly, the farmer actually came out, saw me there, wondered what I was doing, and I explained to him that I was just taking some pictures of a cornfield to show what the Midwest is like, and he approved. He was quite pleased, and I think he was a little bit proud that I chose his cornfield to be representative of the great state of Minnesota. So, yeah, I see this everywhere. We're surrounded by them. Just as we seem to be surrounded by TERFs, unfortunately. Okay, next week I'll try to find something a little less divisive, but I also think that this is an important issue that has to be discussed. So I'll talk to you next week. So long.